Welcome to NPU Live. I'm Keri Rodriguez.
And I'm Tim Logan.
So glad to be with you this morning. It's a special morning.
It is.
It's September 11th. And you know, it's kind of weird. It's 19 years later.
I know. It's crazy.
19 years
Feels
later.
like it was yesterday.
I know. And this is actually quite a memory for you.
Yeah, I was actually traveling into New York on the day that it happened when I lived in New Jersey and I worked in Manhattan. So you never forget today.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad that we're here today doing the show. The one thing that always bothered me was that I missed one day of work. I think I was working with this company for 4 or 5 years. I missed one day of work, and that was actually on September 11th. And it always bothered me because that's what the people who caused this wanted.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to throw off our daily routine. So I always made sure I showed up for work on September 11th after that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always glad when we can do what we're supposed to be doing on September 11th, keeping our routines, helping out families, doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and I think it's also important that, you know, we also stop and reflect, that we don't forget how crazy this day was.
That's right.
I was a reporter at the time, and I was in college at the same time. I was an intern at KYW in Philadelphia, and I will never forget, I was working at our college radio station in New Jersey, WBZC, the pride of the Pine Barrens, as we called it. But then went into KYW, and so many people from New Jersey and from Philadelphia also did the commute into New York, and it was chaos. It was crazy. It's kind of interesting when you have that conversation with your kids now.
I know.
You know, because I don't know about you, but it's, when you think about September 11th, even though it was 19 years ago, it feels like yesterday. Was such a gorgeous day.
Right.
Remember
Well, I think it was beautiful out. It was beautiful out. I was walking to the bus stop. I was going in the bus. I was the only person in West New York, New Jersey, who did not speak Spanish. And I didn't know what was going on. And people were talking on the bus. And as we turned the corner to, you take a left and then a right to the Lincoln Tunnel, you could see the clouds from the Twin Towers right there. So we turned around. So it was a really, it was a horrible day. Awful day.
Awful day.
And I think our lives have changed forever. You know, how we travel. I think how we look at each other. I mean, how we just politically, how we work with other countries. There's before and after.
And you were actually working in travel at the time.
Yes, I was. And
that changed everything.
Yeah.
After that day, like, your entire industry was changed.
Yeah, I remember being able to run to JFK at an international flight. I ran right through security. That was before 9/11. And now we're just used to what we're used to now. You know?
Yeah, I remember. You know, I went over to England and France right before it happened. I think it was the summer before with my younger brother, and it was just such a different experience traveling afterwards.
Sure.
And just the access that you had to places. I remember used to do a lot of traveling with my younger brother, and we'd hop in the car. I mean, again, I was going to college in Philadelphia. I went to Temple University, and my brother was living with me at the time. And like, we'd just hop in the car and like decide we wanted to go down to DC for the night, because we were, you know, political nerds, and, you know, wanted to check things out, and used to be able to just kind of go wherever you wanted. I don't think we often pause to remember like how much of an impact this day actually had on so much of our lives. And but it is interesting when you have that conversation with your kids, and you try to, because they're learning about it as a historical event,
as it's really still happening. I mean, we're still paying the consequences for it 20 years later. We're still at war over it 20 years later. So it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad.
It's crazy when they ask you questions. You know, it's an emotional thing.
It is.
To have to like explain to them, like, no, this is what happened on this day.
Right.
But it's also interesting. I want to ask you this question too, because this has been on my mind a little bit. You know, the historical event that we are actively going through now.
Yes.
This pandemic. You know, almost gives me like pause to think about it, because like 190,000 people have died.
Yeah.
And it's happened over 6 months, but like, that's a lot of people to die. It's a huge amount of people to die.
Well, I think it's like they say, that the bigger the numbers, it's a statistic.
Because I
the bigger
remember
numbers,
like
the less
thinking like,
effective
I
it is.
can't believe 3,000 people died in one day.
Right.
In one day.
Yeah.
In 9/11. And then like 190,000 people have died.
And because you don't see it on TV all the time, you don't have the visuals.
And we just get so used to the numbers. We get
Right.
so used to like, so used to the fact that like 1,000 people a day.
Yep.
2,000 people a day. Like even now, like when I get the updates on my phone, like I'm always looking for the Boston Globe update here in Massachusetts around like, okay, are we having an uptick? Like how many couple hundred people have tested positive for COVID-19? How many people have died? And I'm really realizing how numb I am to the fact that like, oh, 20 people died, 40 people died, 100 people died, 200 people died. Oh, only 1,500 people died nationally today. Like those are actual people.
Those are 1,500 families affected by this.
People who died.
Right.
So I don't know. It's really like, I guess it just hits me on this day because I just remember, on 9/11, like I remember people being so frantic and being a reporter and having to this was an ongoing story. Like I went up to the site and did all of this, the impact that it was having on Philadelphia because I was covering from Philadelphia at the time. And it was like, it was incredible to be at the center of it and like to support reporters. I got to report for the first time myself on KYW in this moment. And it was a very exciting, but the impact of it and like having to tell all of those stories and talk to people who like, I just remember for weeks and weeks, like people putting up the pictures. Yeah. And just so much hope that maybe they were just lost. Maybe we just couldn't find them. Maybe because the cell phones were down and all of that. And I remember, just all of the anxiety, the frantic searches, all of those things. And, just the huge wave. And at the end of it, just realizing, God, in an instant. Yeah. Like 3,000 people were gone. And I thought that's the worst thing that's ever happened. I can't imagine something so bad happening again. And then you think about like where we are right now. Right. And over 6 months, 190,000 people are dead. Right. Yeah. Wow, it just hit you. Hit you a little bit. So
and that's why I get upset when I hear, oh, it only affects 1%. It's only a 1% death rate, or only 8 people died in Massachusetts. Today in Massachusetts. That's horrific. And it's funny too, because it's not funny. It's coincidental that I think it mirrors 9/11, that I was reminded of 9/11 when the streets were empty. When we first shut down and we first took things seriously and how empty the streets were and how no one was out. That's exactly how Times Square was the day after. Right? And then and this appreciation we have for first responders now, and EMT and nurses and doctors. That's the same appreciation we had during 9/11.
Because literally, like, it's the same thing we're seeing now, because these are the same people who, during that time, like, everybody was running away and they were running in. Right. And it's the same thing with COVID. Like, everybody's running away and they're running in to try to help people. So, I don't know. It just, if you live through that and, like, now you're living through this, there's a lot to... Clearly, we needed to process this morning. We do. I'm also thinking about, God, do you remember the planes left from Logan? And I remember, like, I couldn't go back into Logan Airport for a while afterwards without thinking about, God, we let them through this airport, and they were here, and nobody stopped them. Like, I feel like, as a Bostonian, like, almost responsible for peace. I always did, and I know that there's a lot of people that don't forget that piece of it either. Like, God, why didn't somebody around here, like, we're also freaking skeptical and giving people the side eye. Like, why don't we give those guys the side eye? Right. Like, why didn't we? Yeah.
And why don't we do more now to help people? Yeah. To stop a disaster that's the death toll now is much higher and maybe more far-reaching. You know, and affecting our children. You know, that's why we started these shows, because parents need help. And this disaster that's happening now it is affecting our children directly, especially this time of year.
And just because we're tired and we're bored, like it doesn't mean it's not still ongoing.
Right. Doesn't mean you have to.
And we're numb and everything else. It
doesn't mean you have to stop and start taking your mask off. Yeah. You know, so yeah. Big day of reflection.
Big day of reflection. That's what it's supposed to be. And you know, but the work also has to go.
The work has to keep going. The work has to keep going.
God, 9/11, I wasn't even a mama then. I was a whole different person.
Right.
I was a whole different person.
Right.
I could volunteer to work, 72 hours in a row because I didn't have babies to go home to.
I was irresponsible then.
I was.
There we go.
I spent all my money. I had zero money in my check.
There you go. And it was gone. There you go.
Anyway, just really excited to welcome Tafshir Cosby, who's actually in New Jersey.
We're talking about a lot of work to get done.
And talk about a lot of work to get done. But, she lived through this too. So it's good to have Family Friday. We get a little emotional on Family Friday, a little different vibe. We kind of let you in to the fam on Friday. So just so happy that she's with us this morning and want to welcome her to the conversation too. It's just, it's different 19 years out, but it's still like so fresh and so emotional to think about.
Well, and still so much work to get done, especially this year.
Yeah. Tafshir, how are you?
Yeah, good morning.
Y'all
got me. I'm glad I don't have on mascara because y'all would have had me over here. My mascara would have been running down my feet.
Yeah. No, I didn't even put mine on yet this morning. I was just like.
I mean, it's definitely a solemn day, especially for the New York, New Jersey region. Especially living in Newark, right? We're so close to New York City. We're 30 minutes away. My story from 9/11 is just embedded, in my head forever. I was actually working for a tech company in Woodbridge, and we used to do like the original devices where you could like send text messages back and forth to people.
Yeah.
And I remember actually being on a call with a firefighter, and him saying like, I have to go because a plane just hit the Twin Towers. And I was just like, what is he talking about? I went into my break room and there were like all these pictures and like every news camera was out. But where we were in Woodbridge, we could actually see over a hilltop. We could see the Twin Towers. So we all ran up to the hilltop. There were about 50, 60 of us. And we literally saw the two buildings fall down. It was like dominoes. And it was just horrific. We were stunned for about 10 minutes. We just couldn't figure out like what is going on? Like, why are these buildings falling? And then in the next breath, I said to myself, we're under attack and I have to leave. I jumped in my car. I drove, 90 on the parkway. I'm looking up in the sky. I'm like, if we're under attack, I need to be home with my family. I went and took my kids out of school. I took them out of daycare. Like my husband came home. And we were just sitting in the living room, like hugged up, because we just didn't know what was going on. Like, is someone going to attack the city? Is someone attacking the world? Like, what is happening here? And I mean, it was just a horrible, horrible feeling. And I had an uncle who actually was the elevator foreman in the Twin Towers. And like Tim said, this was Tim's first day not coming to work. This was my uncle's first day being late to work. He was actually stuck on the George Washington Bridge trying to get downtown. And he was just like, he prayed because he's like, he literally would have been in the elevator shaft when the buildings fell. So it's just, it's a day of remembrance. It's a day of, just love for all the families and everyone who lost a loved one, and just for our region, just for everybody who was lost in what happened. And just, again, giving support to our firefighters and our policemen and all those people, like you said, Keri, we were running out and they were running in to help, and they're still doing this to this day. So just much love to all those people, and so much love to all the families who lost loved ones. It's just a solemn day. But like you said, the work still has to go on, right? We still have to, we still have to help families. We still have to do what we have to do, and get the work done. So
now more than ever.
now, absolutely more than ever.
And it's incredible when you think about it, like through the context of what we're going through right now. It, you know, like it did for me a couple minutes ago. It kind of hits you between the eyes, like all of the people, because like I mean, in New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and Boston, like the impact was a little bit different. I mean, I think it was shocking for the rest of the country, but like we actually lost people. Like there were people who disappeared. There are people who are gone as a result of this. And
absolutely.
like, so it was a little, it was a little bit more kind of in your face, especially like the buildings fell in New York. The planes took off from Boston. The building or the planes crashed into Pennsylvania. Like, and when you have those like physical representations, it's a lot. But you know, so the like it like the way it impacted community where people were actually gone, it's kind of reflective of this moment too, where we're actually, people are disappearing now, you know.
Yes, they are.
Illness, they're gone. Like people who were healthy, vibrant, wonderful, you know, young people in our community are just, they're gone. They've disappeared. And I wonder, like the impact of 9/11 is still going on. You know, I wonder how like the disappearance, the loss that we're going to have in our communities, like how what that ripple effect is going to be like. Because I mean, again, New Jersey was hard hit with COVID. New York was hard hit. There are people that are just gone.
Yeah, and just out of people's lives. And like you say, young people, right? One day you're talking to them, a couple days later you hear that they're gone, you know. And it's like, I just saw that person. Like I just was talking to that person. I was just in the supermarket talking to that person. Or
they were fine. They were fine.
They were fine. They were fine. And now they're gone out of their families' lives. You know, you're talking about breadwinners of families. You're talking about sons and daughters and cousins and uncles and aunts. And I mean, the void, I think right now, because we're still in COVID, everybody's still in shock. But I think, you know, once we kind of emerge out of this, I think the void that it's going to leave on communities and families is just going to be a giant hole. And, you know, it's just going to be people just missing the people in their family who are gone. And like I said, some of these people were breadwinners for their families. Families may not even get back to where they were before these people passed. Grandparents, right? We did an intergenerational conversation a few weeks ago, and the importance of talking to your grandparents, having that conversation with them about their lives and knowing your cousins, and, you know, just you know, talking about all this going on and what they went through in the civil rights area and what young people are going through now. You know, how is it the same? How is it different? What can we learn from each other? So, you know, I know a lot of people, I know I miss talking to my mom, talking to my grandmothers, talking to my grandfather, you know. And it's like, you have to do that now. Like, start having those conversations with the next generation now, because you never know if they're going to be here the next day when you want to have that conversation.
I'm just thinking about leadership too in this moment. I mean, back on 9/11, like we had, you know, leadership with some questionable motivations, you know, some evil to them, but they weren't incompetent. Now we have incompetence, like utter, total, complete and catastrophic incompetence. Like George W. Bush, like, did some shady shit, but he knew, like, we had to like mobilize the military, like I didn't see it, like, and we knew that like we had to send help to New York. We had to send like we had to like dispatch the federal government to deal with, like, we don't have a president that like gets the like the basics of like, there's a crisis, like I need to mobilize the CDC, like like all of it.
And that you don't protect people by hiding that there's a problem. You call out the problem and you deal with it.
You deal with it. That's right. You help the people. You actually help the people who are in crisis, instead of saying, oh, I don't want people to panic. People are already panicking. You're the leader. You're supposed to calm people down, help calm people down, and find help and resources for people. That's what you do as a leader.
I couldn't even imagine. Could you imagine Donald Trump on 9/11? He would be like, well, it was crap real estate anyway. I always told them not to buy there. I didn't own any property there. Like,
it's my opportunity to build. It's my opportunity to build. Now we got this. Now we got this land I can build on.
I'm looking at developing this area. Like, who knows what crazy crap he would have come up with?
Yeah.
Like, and then it would have been like, I don't even know.
It just would have been terrible. I mean, we have another icon we heard about this morning in New York. You know, one of the stores that was right across the street from the Twin Towers, Century 21. You know, that building stood. You know, when the towers fell and everything was falling around, and the building stood. And today we find out that they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. You know, that store is an icon in the city and in this area, and like, and now they're going to be gone. Now they're going to be gone.
Only have that store like right there at the World Trade Center, or in California. So the only time I didn't even know what a Century 21 was until my friend took me there once. I was like, girl, what is this? Century 21, I'm not trying to buy any real estate today. What are you? And I had no idea. It's a fabulous store.
What is
fabulous store. High end on the cheap. High end clothes.
It's like Saks on Fifth.
Okay.
Yes.
Down at,
Yes.
So it's like it's where you get your bougie cha-cha shoes. You know me and my cha-cha shoes.
Yeah, I do.
That's right.
Like,
That's where you get your fancy.
Expensive cha-cha shoes that you couldn't afford, but you can find them there. Like, it's like clearance from like.
But now they're going out of business.
Man.
All of the stores, they're closing every store. I'm just like, no, not Century 21. I mean, but again, that store stood in New York when everything was crumbling around it. It was still there. It opened shortly after everything happened, and it was there for us. And you know, it's just another era gone. Another era of COVID is just doing so much damage. You know, just all over the place. And this is just another example of what's happening in our economy. You know, stores like these are closing. Small businesses are closing all over the place that won't open up again. And like you said, we need leadership. This is the time for leadership.
Yeah, unfortunately it's because we really have no national leadership, and that's what comes down to it. Like,
exactly.
I was actually kind of skeptical of the federal government. I was always like, yeah, the federal government, the president, how much influence does the president really have? I mean, everything's run locally. Like, I'm always big on like vote in your municipal elections, and we're gonna get to the voting part. Vote in your state elections. Like, this is really where the rubber meets the road. Yeah, the president, everybody gets all excited about the federal elections, but like, really, you got to vote in your local elections. So my predisposition is always to think like, yeah, the president, like there's some
like figurehead.
No. Like, I was wrong. We need national leadership. We need leadership at the top, competent, strong,
caring, thoughtful.
Semi-literate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most we can ask for. I mean, really.
I used to be horrible with George W. Bush because he was not a reader either, and wouldn't read those presidential daily briefings. And every year on 9/11, I used to post the presidential daily briefing that he was just not reading around like Al Qaeda. I'd be like, this is what happens when you don't have competent leadership at the top.
Right.
To me, it was more laziness and, you know, a philosophical thing with him. With Trump, it's incompetence and crazy. Like, I don't even know. Like,
it's all about the military. It's all about the military might. It's not about the people. It's not about the people who make up the majority of the world. You know, it's not about the everyday person. It's about the military and the people at the top and everyone who has power. And he feels like if you are poor and disenfranchised and live in the city, you don't have any power, so you don't matter. But we know that's not true, right? We know that's not true. We know that there is power in people, and we do have power in our communities. And our absolute power is the power to vote, the power to cast that ballot and get the people that we want to have into office, or run ourselves to get into office and vote the people who we don't want in office out. So we absolutely have power.
And that's why I wrote this conversation this morning. It's really important. Like our entire focus. I mean, certainly we're talking about what's happening in education, making sure our kids and families are protected, all of that. It's always our focus.
Yeah.
But we also have a window of opportunity because it is an election year. It is so important this year. I feel like we say this every election, like this is a change, this is going to be the election that changes everything. Please God, let this be the election that changes everything, because we are
even if it doesn't change, take it back to the way it was. Give me
normal.
Give me some sense of normalcy. So Tashfia, like, what are we going to do then to activate these communities to, again, not saying who I'm voting for, but say I was going to vote my conscience. How are we going to do that? What are we doing with Every Family Votes? How's this going to work over the next 56 days?
56 days. That's all we have, guys. I mean, that's a short window of time to activate people, to organize people. But with our Every Family Votes campaign, we are looking to get information to families to make sure that they know where their voting locations are, what type of voting is happening in their state. Is it going to be vote by mail? Can you vote in person? Do you have ballot boxes? Getting people engaged on the grassroots level to really have conversations with your entire family about the importance of voting. Talk about it at the dinner table. Talk about it at barbecues. Talk about it now that restaurants are open and outdoor dining. Like, really talk about the issues that are important to you and your community and your state, and really educate people on what it means to cast that ballot, what that vote means. We have a lot of people who feel like their vote doesn't matter. Oh, it's the Electoral College that makes the decision. Your vote matters. It matters. Your vote, your family's vote, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, everybody. That vote is absolutely important to make sure that you cast that ballot. So with our Every Family Votes campaign, we have a toolkit that we have on our website that grassroots organizations or families can download. It gives you information on how to vote in your area, what it looks like, how do you organize people around voting, how do you knock on doors, how do you do a literature drop where you go from house to house giving people information about getting out the vote. And it's so important that people go out and register to vote. I know in New Jersey, I read an article that said the other day that we're at a plateau in New Jersey, right? I know we have about 86% of New Jerseyans already registered to vote, but we're at a plateau with our younger generation of voters, right? Our 18 to 24-year-olds. For some reason, they're not out here registering to vote. And if they do register to vote, they're not casting their ballot. So we really need to make sure we're having these conversations with the younger people and really helping them to build their muscle around voting. It's not just about the presidential election. It's about, like Keri said, your local elections. Those are going to make the biggest difference in what's happening in your community, your mayor, your council people, your like I said, I vote for everybody, dog catcher, mayor, senator, everybody. That's going to make the biggest difference. But with our campaign, we really want to not only engage people in voting and organize people around voting and getting out in your neighborhood and talking to people about voting, but we also want to make people excited about voting, right? I know that a lot of times it's like, we have to vote. Get excited about the fact that you can cast your ballot and you can either vote out the person who doesn't have your best interest at heart, or you can vote in the person who does. Or a lot of times I tell families and parents, if neither one of those people are the people that you want to see in your local, then you run for office, right? If you feel like that's something that you can do, you have a voice and you can talk to your people, because locally, you know what your community needs, right? You live there. You know that you live in Newark, we had a lot of food deserts. You live in a food desert and you want to get a supermarket there. You know that you have families who are insecure with housing and you want to make sure that there's more low income and moderate housing in your area. So if you know these things, talk to your legislators about these things. If they're not moving the needle, then you run for office and you make sure that it gets done for your community. So we're really trying to educate parents, families, community organizations on a grassroots level about the importance of educating yourself on the politics behind voting, right? Who's running, what their platforms are, and also get excited about it. And then have conversations with your entire family so you can really build that voting muscle. So it's not just a presidential election, it's every single election you are excited to go and cast that ballot.
I love that, Tashmir. It's like you said, people don't think about the local elections. I'll admit it. Last year I consciously voted in my first municipal election because.
His first prelim.
Yep, he's like, a prelim. And I said, I got to do this twice? And I said, okay.
It was one of our most romantic dates.
Yeah, but then I joined the ward committee. And I got to tell you, I know what you're talking about because I'm sitting there and people are talking about fighting Trump and fighting the administration. I'm looking around like, what are you talking about? There are people more qualified than us to do that. Do me a favor. The curb in front of 62 Mount Vernon Street is broken.
Exactly.
I almost cracked my ankle on it. There's potholes down the street.
Right. Right.
You know,
we need that stop sign on that corner. Like,
exactly. What about our immediate day-to-day lives? That's what you're here to do. You know, that's where you affect me even more.
Absolutely.
That's where the rubber meets the road. I think a lot of the time, folks get the wrong idea about like what these roles and what these positions are and what they do, but really every single aspect of government is going to impact your life. And if you're not happy about what you're seeing and you're not participating, then you've missed your opportunity. So all we need to say to folks right now, families across the country, if you're not happy with what you're seeing right now, there is an opportunity to make a once in a 4-year change to the trajectory of the country, and to get somebody else in there that can fix things. So you only get one shot. If you don't participate, you get what you get and you don't get upset.
That's it. And the federal election, right? People don't realize it's not just the president we're voting for. We're voting for senators. We're voting for Congress. We're voting for judges. We're voting for judges, like Supreme Court judges and state judges. These people are making decisions for your state. They're making decisions for the national country, for everyone. So educate yourself on who these people are that are running. Do they have the best interest of your community at heart? Are they voting the way that you feel your community needs them to vote? Or if they're not, then you need to make your voices heard. You need to organize people in small communities and in large communities and really just hold information sessions, right? We have Zoom. So there's no reason why I know people are a little zoomed out, but this is important. This is really important to get in these Zoom calls, to get on these conversations, really educate yourselves on what's happening out here, who's being voted in, who's running, and whose best interest they have at heart. If it's not yours, then you need to rally people around whoever has your best interest to make sure the best person is in that position to make decisions for you. I always equate this to a moving train, right? The train is still moving. You can get on, you can get off, but decisions are still going to be made whether you're educated or not. So educate yourself and go out and cast that ballot. Your vote is your voice. It's your opportunity to share with your lawmakers your voice, what it is that you want to see in your communities, what you want to see in your state, and most importantly, what do you want to see at the federal level when we're talking about decisions that are being made about finances, money that's coming to your state, money that's not coming to your state, taxes, all those decisions are being made at the federal level. So please, everyone, I urge everyone, educate yourselves, and go to our website, nationalparentsunion.org, download our toolkit, bring it to your community meetings, talk about it in your community circles, download it for your family, bring it to the dinner table, bring it to the lunch table, bring it in the backyard while you're having barbecues. Like, just really educate yourself and really make sure that you go out and vote. So this is my shameless plug right here. This is our fantastic logo, Every Family Votes. We're excited, we're so excited about it. We also have swag that you can purchase. We have stickers, we have masks, we have t-shirts. Like, show that your family, that you're excited about your family voting, and you want to make sure that every family in your neighborhood, in your state, in your city is voting.
Tashmir, we know that you and Kulia and Maritza and all of our delegates are really excited about Every Family Votes.
We are.
You guys are actually doing a takeover of this program because we're all in. We want to make sure that folks are really focused on this election. We, again, only have 56 days.
56 days
for us to mobilize. We're reaching over 11 million families with the National Parents Union. So we're ready to light this country up with excitement around voting.
Absolutely.
And we know that you ladies are going to do it. So excited to have you guys leading this campaign, and to be working with you on this. So more to come on this. We're so glad that you joined us this morning. So glad that you shared some time with us to give us a little kickoff. And
That's right.
more to come. So Tafshir Cosby is joining us from Newark, New Jersey, holding it down for all of us, for all of our folks in Jersey. Man, Jersey is strong.
They're
in the
pretty
National
awesome.
Parents Union, and it's
We really
led by
are.
this lady over here. So
Thank you, guys.
grateful for your leadership and everything that you bring to us.
Thank
And
you.
that's it. That's it. That's the Friday edition.
That's it. We made it. We
That's
made it through another week.
All
We
right.
made it through.
We want to say we hope you have a peaceful and joyful weekend. That you spend some time with your family, connecting, reflecting, especially in light of the important day. And we will return on Monday. Well,
right.
we won't.
We won't.
We will. The Every Family Votes Committee. You're going to see a lot of us. You're going to see us. We're going to take over.
It's on fire. This is
That's
great.
Right.
We're going to do takeovers. Please watch our shows. Every single one of our shows is going to be talking about Every Family Votes. We're going to have on people across the country who are fired up and ready to talk about this election, ready to give you information and resources for your state, and just really ready to have this conversation and get everybody excited, especially the young people, 18 to 24. Get excited about this. You have a long time to be voting. So now's the time to get yourself educated. I remember my first time voting at 18. I voted the first time for Bill Clinton. And I was so excited to like cast my ballot and go there. And I just felt like, I walked out with my head up. I walked out tall. I just felt like such a grown up. I'm like, I'm a grown up now. Like I cast my first ballot and I tried to make that happen for my kids. They've always gone to the ballot with me. They've always seen me talk about voting. We've always had conversations about voting. When they turn 17, they register to vote. It's not even an option. When they turn 18, they cast their first ballots. This is my son's first year voting for the presidential election. So we're all excited as a family. We're going to send back our ballots and have a big celebration on it. So just make sure that you're talking to your family and get excited about voting because it's important. And every family votes. Every single family votes.
Thank you so much for joining us today. You're going to do a great
job
for the show. And everyone, thank you for joining us. Please visit us on the nationalparentsunion.org. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great weekend.
See you next week.
Take care.